I think we got right into it immediately. We spent a full day going back and forth about a lot of things. And one thing I respect is, Rafael is going to challenge you in a lot of different ways and different opinions. And I think the debate, discussions that we'll have will only benefit us going forward.
Rafael, you did a lot of due diligence on a lot of different folks. What did Ime do to all of a sudden become this great assistant coach and been in the league for a long time, goes to Boston immediately and wins? I mean, obviously it's a players' league, but there has to be something where some guys go through growing pains. Why didn't he go through any?
Yeah, I think probably he was just a little bit better prepared. One of the things he said to me was that as useful as it was to be 8 years in San Antonio, then getting out and being in Philadelphia and Brooklyn was enormously impactful for him to understand not just how one situation works, but how they all work. Mm-hmm. And that resonated with me. I think we're all the product of our experiences, and so kind of and we talked a lot about, actually, I won't name any names, we talked a lot about a coach we know really well who is not personally at all like us, and how effective they are, and that was one of the things I really liked, is his ability to recognize success is success, and there's not just one way to do it. Finally, one thing he said that really resonated with me again, because it's something I find with myself. He said he can only be him. So he recognizes that success that others do, and they take their own path to get there. And it's not that you don't admire it and try and learn from it, but you have to do it within the context of staying true to yourself. And we were talking about kind of how you deal with interpersonal relationships, and that's very much me. I know I'm incapable of being not me. So when other when people say that they can change, I mean, some people maybe can, yeah. But it resonated with him that he was like, look, I'm just going to do this the way I'm going to do it. And it's not that you can't learn and everything else, but fundamentally you have to be true to yourself. And I think all successful people are really very much that. They've got a conviction to what they do because it's true to them. It's very authentic. And yeah, it was he obviously blew us out the door because he's here today.
And you mentioned that some of that stuff as well is kind of aligns with the way Tillman runs the team. Can you just explain, is that what you're talking about how Tillman runs his business? You said that's how you felt like Ime was?
Yeah, I do think, we're different people, and it's not to say that Tillman and I are super similar or that I and Ime are, but I do think there's a very common thread of hitting problems head on. And that was one thing that he said right away, was like, if I see it, I'm dealing with it. And that's very much me. I'm not a very good avoider. And there's a technique to that. And some people are immensely successful by ignoring issues because sometimes they just go away. That's real, and I don't want to act like that's not a management style. It's just not my management style, and that wouldn't work for me. And in talking to Ime, it doesn't work for him. And from my personal experience, I know that ain't Tillman's management style. So I think one of the cool things is that he's built this successful resume, and I like to think that mine is very similar, where we found a way to be successful, with a style that is very direct. And that is obviously Tillman's success is essentially unprecedented, and he has a very direct style. So I do like that. I like that we all have a commonality towards how we approach problems.
Ime, having called all the games and seeing them the last couple of years, this team points in the paint got a lot better this year. Offensive rebounding, those are the positives. The negatives was the three-point shot just didn't fall very much. Is that such a thing you can teach, or is it to Rafael and you guys getting together to maybe get some more pure shooters on this basketball team?
Yeah, we've discussed that in depth. I think shooting, like I said, is always going to be at a premium in this league. And the one thing I noticed was we don't have bad shooters. It was some more so shot selection at times. And so you want to help them in that area, but also instill confidence. It looked like, especially later in the season, a lot of wide open shots were passed up because they weren't falling. So you want to build that confidence, but also, it comes down to work ethic and repetition, but also putting them in the right position to be successful with those shots. And so it's a little combination of everything. We want those guys to grow in that area, but as well as, we'll try to add shooters. And so it kind of touches on both points.
How many brownie points did the guys get by showing up this thing today? Did they get a lot? Or
it was only Kevin.
I thought I saw a couple players. Well, you know what? The rest of the guys were pulling behind them.
All good. I'm sure he's going to be fine regardless.
For a couple, Jabari and Tari. Tari was really consistent all year long, and then we saw Jabari get better as the season long. Have you had a chance to ISO those guys a little bit and kind of see where they were and what is it like to take a kid from the first to the second season in the NBA?
Yeah, we looked at that, talked about it. I saw it on film. That obviously Jabari struggled at times early and then came on very strong. But you look at his pass and the numbers and the percentage wasn't indicative of how good of a shooter he was. It just takes some time in the NBA, especially with younger guys. And so he finished really strong. Tari was great all season, and I think we just want to build on that going into their second year. Obviously, continue to add to their game. They're just scratching the surface of their talent and potential, but you usually take a big step between year 1 and year 2, and we want to help them with that, but help them grow in other areas as well.
All right, last question. I'll let you guys roll because I got other things to get to. You mentioned the $60 million in cap, so each one of you can give an answer to this. Is that just literally, here's a pie of big money, let's spend it that way? Or do you break the bank on 1 or 2 guys? What are your philosophies on that? And obviously, you want to be on the same page on this, but there are interesting ways to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, I think it's definitely not, here's a pile of money, let's just go spend it.
Okay. Why not?
So I know the answer to that is no.
Rocket fans would love to hear that.
No, I think you need to make sure that it's very strategic, and so we want to use it in a way that improves the team both in the near term and the long term, and that is the whole key. And you want to make sure that you don't overextend and hope and chase, which sometimes happens. We've talked about it a bunch. I actually think we're going to be on the same page. I'm not at all worried about that. But as the free agency market develops, and guys could still re-sign with current teams on extensions and everything else. We got to get to July 1. Once we fully understand it, then I think we'll just make the best decisions we can. But it's very much. One of the great things about when he came in, he was excited about the guys we have now. And I think that's the right approach because that's what you have, right? And then it's how to add to them in a way that is additive and isn't, and isn't something that inadvertently hurts you long term.
Yeah, I'd say piggyback on that a little bit where you're trying to plug holes and make improvements in areas if you see needed. And so, we located some areas. Obviously, we talked about the shooting, but complementary pieces to what we already have and guys that will also push that younger group as well. So I think we'll figure it out once July comes around. But we've targeted areas of need, and we want improvement within the team, but we know how we can expedite that by adding veteran players as well.